Welcome to the New York Pest Management Association YouTube channel. And today we have a really special sort of discussion that we're going to have about legislation. This is a super critical, super important aspect of the association is lobbying for the industry. And we have two awesome people here to talk about this today. My counterpart, Bill, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Bill Clark. I own Thomas Pest Services over in Albany, New York. I have the ability to, the privilege to be on New York State Pest Management's board and work on a couple different committees. When this topic came up, it's near and dear, and Andy and I got together and figured how can we bring some of this information to you guys. So we are excited to get Jordan Brooks to join us today, and he's one of our spars and one of the guys fighting these battles for us. So it really sounds like we have two big topics and two big battles in front of us.
Yeah, for sure. And Jordan, what's your role here with the association?
I am a vice SPAR, which is State Policy Affairs Representative. Our SPAR is Joe Barrett with Rent to Kill Terminex. I'm fortunate enough that he brought me on as vice SPAR to try to help him, as Bill said, with fighting these battles in this ever-shifting regulatory landscape where we're up against, again, a couple big battles, as Bill mentioned. So I'm thrilled to be able to help the industry all I can here.
For sure.
Yeah, it really sounds like these laws, if passed, could really shape how we provide pest management to our customers, not just in New York City, but across the state in general.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, Jordan, we have two different bills that we're going to talk about today that we want to get the word out that this is out there. So the first one is down in New York City. Do they have a name for this? I know that we've been calling it the New York City rodent Glueboard ban. What exactly is this? What's going on down there?
Yeah, I don't know if it's unlike the state bill we're going to talk about where there is sort of a catchy name, the Raptors Act. With respect to the New York City bill, we could just call it a Glueboard ban. Now, interestingly enough, the language in the bill right now says that Glueboard shall not be sold or distributed. Doesn't use the term used, but I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that that's probably going to be amended, right? So I think we can look at this as a Glueboard ban. And what does distribution mean? These are all sort of things that have not been worked out or fleshed out yet by the New York City Council. But to put it simply, there is a bill that would preclude the use, even though it says sale or distribution, of glue boards that are used to catch rodents or animals larger than a rodent. So picture a glue board of a certain size. But as we know, and you two certainly know better than I do as being out in the field, there are glue boards used that could catch a rodent that are also used to identify and catch other insects and pests other than rodents. So right now there is a bill that's been introduced in the New York City Council that has between 6 or 8 sponsors. Yesterday we received an update that 3 more sponsors, which just means that 3 more city council members have signed on to move this bill forward towards ultimately a vote. So we, as an association, with the help of 3 manufacturers, that being those being Catchmaster, Bell, and Webcoat, have contributed very generously to allow the association to retain a New York City specialized lobbyist to work with us to try to oppose and defeat this proposed glue board ban in New York City.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. We have the text here, some of the text from that actual proposed. I guess it's a law or regulation. I don't know what they call it when it's in the city government. But as you're saying, you can see right here, capture rodents other than or other animals larger than a rodent. So it's really just on the size of it. Is that what we're thinking? They're looking at the size of a adhesive device.
They are, because, okay, if you look at what the intent is of this, and let's assume all good intentions, right? It's that there is a backlash against glue boards because they believe that it leads to the suffering of rodents or animals larger than rodents. And usually these glue board bans, of which there are 3 in California, stem from some animal that got stuck in a glue board that was improperly placed, certainly not by a pest control professional, right? Where there's an animal that's caught and that then becomes a headline and there's a steam that, gets behind some sort of ban within a certain district, and then a council member or other representative sort of picks up the flag on it and tries to move it through whatever legislative house they're in.
When I read this, it looks like the intent of the glue board is what is in effect here. Any device that uses non-drying adhesive material to capture rodents or other animals larger than a rodent. So if you were intending to catch a rodent with say an ILT glue board, I mean, it's not inadvisable, but then now that should be a glue trap that is disallowed. Like how are we defining which types of things are going to be gone? Because this seems really, really vague to me.
It is, and I hopefully we won't get to a point where we have to do their work for them, right? Hopefully we will through our lobbying efforts and support of experts such as yourselves and the general support of the New York Pest Management Association and the MPMA, educate these council members on why glue boards are essential for IPM, integrated pest management, why it's essential for low income settings, and for the hospitality industry as well. So you're right. It is very vague. And that gets back to where I began, which as to this bill, which doesn't even state the use, right? So there's a lot to define here.
Yeah, it's a challenge because there's such a wonderful tool in our arsenal. Really our eyes and ears when we're not there, not just for rodent control, but in general. Sounds like we may get lucky enough if this does pass to still have some options for insect monitors, but it sounds like even that may be a little gray based on the lack of actual size or glue density, any specifications they put in there.
Sure. And what would happen is there would be a committee. This is what the lobbyist has educated me about. There would be a committee that then passes regulations that would help define and flesh out the language in this law should it pass. And that would then become a give and take, hopefully, with the pest management industry. But this is real. It's a real threat to the job that all of our pest management professionals do, and it's a real threat to public health and safety. I don't think we're overstating that at all.
How fast could something like this happen? Like, is this something that we're going to be years and years fighting a battle, or is this something that next year we could, if we're unsuccessful of fighting this or getting some carve outs for this, could we be seeing this like next year?
You could be, as opposed to the state level, which tends to move more slowly. As I've been educated by our lobbyist, if 27 bill sponsors are added to this bill, and right now, like I said, it's changing daily, but we're in that 6 to 8 range. If there are 27 put on, it will then advance to a meeting before a certain committee. That committee will then take testimony. We would bring in pest management professionals and experts to talk about why this bill is so misguided and unwise and all the detrimental impact it could have. But we could be talking about a matter of weeks once this gets onto the floor of that committee meeting, which is why our lobbyist is currently reaching out to council members to try to schedule meetings with them to educate them about why this bill is such a bad idea.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys and your team is doing a great job. Is there anything our listeners and our fellow association members could do in this sense to kind of help you guys out?
Yeah, so with respect to, we're sort of taking two different approaches. When it comes to the city bill right now, we are allowing our lobbyists on the advice of the lobbyist for him to do the initial contact with the council members. And then as is appropriate, members of the association, whether it's board directors or just members or people who maybe aren't even members, who are on the outside, who are experts in this field, will be called in to again, persuade these council members why this is so unwise. But right now it's just supporting the association and looking out for any emails that may come across about this, because we may have a call to action with respect to any meetings or hearings that take place.
Awesome. And I guess if anything comes up there, Andy, you and I'll get together, get that information packaged out, get it out to everybody.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. So now, not to be outdone, the state government has its own fund for us, and I can bring that up right now. We have the Raptors Act, right? That's what it's called? And
Oh yeah.
this is this little gem that would basically, I guess, effectively ban first and second generation anticoagulant rodenticide active ingredients for anybody in the state. And this doesn't have any carve out for professional use versus over the counter use. You can see first and second generation anticoagulants. And just so we know exactly what we're working with here, this is the list of materials that we're probably all familiar with: difascinone, warfarin, the first generations, and then some of the second generation anticoagulants here. So this is a state regulation. This isn't just limited to New York City. So all of us in upstate can enjoy the fun regulatory oversight of New York State getting in our stuff. What's going on with this one? What are we looking at here?
It's quite disappointing and unsettling where this bill is going now. And what I mean by that is that if you actually look at the legislative intent of the bill, and I'll read it if you don't mind, just because I can.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
the intent of this act is to prohibit the general public from purchasing and utilizing the world's deadliest rodenticides. They get very, very daunting here, which, when misapplied or improperly used, can cause significant unintended harm to non-target wildlife in the ecosystem. And you know what? That is true, right? That general public use of rodenticides, which are quite potent, but at the same time, which makes them great tools, right, to mitigate and eliminate pest pressure from rodents and the diseases they carry. This bill has taken a turn to a much more restrictive, draconian bill. And the language of the bill that's now introduced in the Senate doesn't even allow for any possibility that licensed pest professionals, or whatever you want to term it, can use rodenticides except in very limited situations. A warehouse, like a food, storage warehouse, or a food processing plant. Yes, in certain circumstances, we will be able to use rodenticides, but even there, you have to attempt to use alternative control methods first. And what are those alternative control methods? Those will be defined, like I explained with the city bill. Those would then be fleshed out by some sort of committee or sub-agency. But this bill has gone from, you could argue, at least the good intention of people not willy-nilly and without any education, just spreading rodenticides over their backyard, which could lead to some deadly unintended consequences. This bill is now essentially swallowing up all use of rodenticides, except in emergency, very restrictive, carved out situations, which will have just a terrible impact on public health and safety, and will strip professionals such as yourselves of the ability to control rodents. So it's really taken a turn from what the intent was to something that was never discussed. And we on the legislative committee were shocked to see the language in this bill. Because originally, go ahead. Sorry, Bill.
I think the intent sounds good, what they're trying to accomplish, but I think the broad stroke is really what's hurting us on this one.
So with this, our approach is a little different than New York City, correct? What are we doing for this?
Yeah. So I also want to, let me just, before we get into that, if you don't mind, Andy, I just want to, another aspect of this bill that is kind of frightening is they include that even where you can use rodenticides, you can't use it within a 500-foot buffer of a wildlife habitat area, which right now includes parks, which would include playgrounds. So if you think about New York City, Syracuse, Buffalo, right, any densely popular, any urban area, or even a suburban area like Nassau County, where you have homes that surround parks and places like that, without any delineation of what the size of that park must be, you're looking at tens of thousands of homes, apartments, hotel rooms, et cetera, that won't be able to use where professionals won't be able to use first and second generation rodenticides. So
that's essentially the entire city.
Yeah. It would be. Yeah.
If we're going to include playgrounds into that.
So to get to your question, Andy, what are we doing about this? Here, the lead sponsor on this bill is Senator Harcum, who has his district is located within Westchester County, New York, which is where I am. We are sending out a blast to the membership, which should come out in the next few days. It's already prepared. We're just going through some internal housekeeping, where we're going to ask all association members to reach out both via email and phone call to Senator Harcum and if you're not in Senator Harcum's district, to your own state senator. And you don't have to remake the wheel here or come up with your own language. We will be including a script for both the phone call and the email. So for the email, it's simply cutting and pasting, perhaps giving a couple sentences about who you are to personalize it. But other than that, cutting and pasting what we've already had. This has been vetted by our lobbyists as well. And for the phone call, giving key talking points. If there's a point that you feel very strongly about, you can feel free to emphasize that. But there will be an email going out with clear instructions and a script. And this will allow our voice to be heard as an industry, because when you speak to state senators about this, they actually understand that there would be such dramatic unintended consequences should this pass. But unless we educate them about them, they're dealing with literally hundreds or maybe thousands of bills that need to get passed within a few week session. So we need to get out. We need to educate all of our representatives about why this is still misguided. And Bill, as you said, could lead to an all-out ban of first and second gens in New York City, given the buffer zone, et cetera. So that email will be going out to the entire membership, again, within the next few days. And we will ask that everyone does their part to reach out, and hopefully with such a loud voice, we can work to defeat this bill and get it amended so that way it's tailored towards allowing professional use and not restricting use within that buffer zone, et cetera.
This affects all of our livelihoods, the way we feed our families, our children, our employees, our teammates. Doesn't sound like it get any easier for all of us to get involved and at least help.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan, I don't know if you know, a few years back, we were looking at an all-out neonicotinoid ban on the exterior. And there was a bill, and we had some carve-outs that we were able to get a win to allow for exterior use on structures. Is that something that happens sometimes after the bill is passed? Is there a possibility this bill could pass as is, and we get a professional use carve-out after in committee or something? Or is this something we have to get that language into this bill before it passes?
Well, there's always a possibility of backtracking, but it will make our jobs a lot easier and give us all a lot more confidence if we can get this amended. Now, last year, the version of this bill really was a lot more in line of that legislative intent, which I read at the outset. It did allow for a carve out for licensed professional certified applicators to apply rodenticide, still that troublesome buffer area, but we felt we could work with Senator Harcum on that. On that buffer area to limit it, or at least limit it to 500 feet or 100 feet of a park that's at least 1,000 acres, right? Something that at least would make this a lot more palatable. So at the bare minimum, the goal is to amend it to at least revert to what the language was a year ago, and then go from there. So nothing's impossible, Andy, but yeah, the principal goal is to certainly hit it right now before it advances any further.
Yeah, we need to get mobilized at this point. I've seen some of the recommended changes that we're proposing as an association, and they're really fantastic. It's for professional use. It has carve outs so that it allows for apprentices, under the supervision of an applicator to still have use and that kind of thing. I think those are great. It really protects public health. It leaves something in our toolkit that we really, really need. In a really good way. I don't think that a lot of people that are the lay people understand the bind professional pest management in general will be in when we're looking at potentially losing glueboards and rodenticides. If you are left with, there's not a lot left in the toolkit at that point. Like you have not a lot, like we don't have a huge amount of ways to capture and kill rodents. People think that there's just hundreds of ways that you can do this, and there's just not. And boy, when you start slimming this down, I don't think people realize that the cost is going to increase to the end user. Control is going to suffer. And we've lived in a world that we've been, as an industry, fairly good at this for a long time. So people have forgotten that, it's actually a risk, that unmitigated pest problems are a real problem, not just a luxury item. It's not just a luxury item to be able to live in your home without pests. It's a necessity. So,
so you just think the disease and bacteria associated with them, we could have a whole 2-hour conversation just around that.
We could, for sure. So I think the one thing that comes out of this, I come away with this for sure, is join the association if you're not already. If you're in this state, if you're in New York, get involved. The more people that we can have involved, the better it's going to be for all of us. It's helpful. It makes a difference. If we can get as many people as possible getting on to sending these emails and getting out there, and having our voice be heard. I think sometimes as an industry, we can be a little quiet. We can be a little in the corner and just go, you know what? No one's going to listen to us anyway. But these are the times where we do have to band together and kind of get our voice out there.
Well said. And as Bill said, this is about it's about livelihood too. And it's about protecting our families. So as you said, we're trying to make it as easy as we can with script. So all we ask that people act on it, take a few minutes, because it can have a big impact.
Yep, for sure.
I mean, Jordan, I know personally, and I'm sure Andy will second this, but we cannot thank you enough for all the work that you and Joe are doing behind the scenes, without the recognition to continuously protect this industry and protect us against some of these crazy legislative laws passing through. It's a true benefit the association brings to the members of New York State. And I really wish we can get more people to understand how much time and effort you guys put into it. So thank you. I don't think we can say it enough to you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for trusting us. And I hope we're successful here. And I know the more people who are involved, the better chance we have.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it sounds like in the next day or two, you'll start getting some information from Joe and Jordan about what you guys can really do to step up and help. I mean, we encourage everybody to take it seriously. This is a serious bill. Unfortunately, I don't think it's something that, even if we get through it this time, it's going to be something that keeps popping back up down the road. So if we can get good at beating it this time, I mean, every time, at least we'll have a leg up on it. So.
Yep. And we do, again, we thanked them at the beginning too, but the input and support from Bell Labs and Catchmaster, AP&G, and Webcoat is fantastic to get those manufacturers helping us out as well. So hopefully we don't have to do this all that often, but it's good to get the word out when we have to. So thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you.